Hello, listeners. Today is January 31st, 2025, and this is The Path to Calm. Today, we're diving into a powerful book that can help you understand your past and control your future. It's called How to Therapize and Heal Yourself by Nick Trenton. In this episode, we'll explore some of the key techniques outlined in the book, which aim to help you gain self-awareness and uncover the link between your beliefs, emotions, and behavior. Nick Trenton has spent years studying behavioral psychology, and his insights are incredibly valuable. The book's available on Amazon, and an audiobook version is available on Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. You can learn more about Nick Trenton at bit.ly/Nick Trenton. In How to Therapize and Heal Yourself, Nick shares his personal journey to self-discovery and healing. Through the use of powerful fictional characters, he guides you through techniques that will help you understand your emotions, identify your traumas, observe your patterns, and ultimately find peace. The topics we'll cover in today's episode include understanding what you're made of and the process of self-questioning. This is a must-read book for anyone looking to gain more self-awareness and take control of their emotional well-being. What would it look like if you could be your own therapist? This is not a hypothetical question. Literally, imagine it now. How would you talk to yourself if you were responsible for providing your own mental health care? Maybe you think that a really good counselor or psychologist is extra caring and compassionate, non-judgmental, non-directive, wise, and mature. Well, the good news is that if you want to, you can provide all these things for yourself without a stitch of formal training. There's something else, however, that therapists are really good at, and it's how we began this chapter, asking questions. A therapist doesn't tell you what you're feeling, what's wrong with you, or how to solve your problems. Instead, they're curious. They ask what you're feeling, ask you to look at how you're functioning, and point you toward your own inner resources so you can start to solve your problems yourself. Why do they do this? Because they know that your life gets better when you are more aware. Telling somebody something doesn't increase their awareness. Asking them a question does. If you want to become your own therapist, you need to get good at asking yourself the right kind of question. The right kind means those questions that create more awareness and shed light on new solutions, unconscious material, possibilities, and alternatives. Self-questioning is a way to peek outside of the current boundaries and limitations of the problem we're experiencing. It's a way to find insight. What's important here is that when you ask this kind of question, you're not doing so in order to find the correct answer. You're doing so because the process of thinking about the answer is what provides insight and gets you to step outside the box of your current predicament. Ask yourself the right questions, and you can educate yourself about your problem, clarify what you want to achieve, assess your thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors, gain insight into recurring patterns, see solutions and new alternatives, find forgiveness, understanding, and compassion for your present position. We can ask questions about our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. We can ask them about the past, the future, or the present. We can ask fantastical hypothetical questions or real concrete ones. We can ask whatever we like. There are no limits. In a therapy session, a counselor will use questions like a flashlight, shining a beam of awareness onto areas of your life that you may not have looked too closely at before. Here are a few common ones. What am I feeling now? In general, what do I think and feel in this situation? When are the times when I feel better, stronger, clearer, or more capable? What is one thing, no matter how small, that I can change right now? What am I avoiding right now? If my friend was going through the same struggle as I am, how would I make sense of their situation? What would I say to them? Are my thoughts distorted in any way? Do I have any evidence for my assumptions? What am I actually afraid of here? How would I behave right now if I were the best version of myself? How am I making sense of my situation? If the worst thing happened, would it really be the end of the world? You may recognize these from an earlier chapter. Are there any unproven assumptions I'm asking right now? Have I felt this way before? What helped back then and what didn't? What core belief is activated right now? Will any of this matter in 1 year's time? In 10 years? What are my values? What do I ultimately want to achieve? Before we continue, though, a word of warning. Just asking a question is not the same as self-therapy, and it's not the same as actually doing something about your problem. A question can shed light on an issue, but that's all. It's still your job to take action inspired by what you learn. The above questions may be more or less useful for you, but it all depends on your unique situation. A therapist will know the right question to ask at the right time. But if we are our own therapists, we need to pay close attention and make sure we're not getting carried away with meaningless analysis that doesn't go anywhere. One tip: avoid asking why. This seems like a reasonable thing to ask, but it actually doesn't provide any insight, only the illusion of insight. Such a question might keep you trapped within a certain perceptual box, rather than showing you a way out of that box. Look at the following conversation Clara could potentially have with herself as her own therapist. Why are you so anxious about everything all the time? I don't know. Maybe it's my mother. She was always like that. Maybe I learned it from her. Why? I think I always wanted her approval or something. I think I wanted to be like her in many ways, so I unconsciously mimicked her. Well, why do you want to be like her? I think I grew up in that generation where little girls were kind of expected to be just like their mothers. And I actually did admire her in many ways. But I also think that there's a cultural expectation for women to be quite neurotic at times, you know? All the women around me were a bit like that. Why? I'm not sure. It's probably a social conditioning thing. Then again, it could be genes. Asking why seldom yields genuine insight. Why? Jokes aside, it's because you don't know the answer. For Clara, it's not really important where her anxiety comes from or who's to blame. She could write the above kind of material in a journal for an hour every day and still be no closer to being less anxious in everyday life. If you lack insight, chewing over the same bits of information over and over again will not magically create fresh insight. You'll simply reinforce all the same old assumptions, coming to faulty conclusions, or going around in circles. What matters is what is happening, how, and when. What matters is her scope of action, to choose to do something different. It's useless to try to guess reasons, none of which can be proven or disproven, by the way. But it will be useful for Clara to get clear on what she wants and what concrete actions she can take right now to bring her closer to that. Be careful about churning psychological material round and round in your own head and convincing yourself that this somehow equates to making change, learning about yourself, or solving problems. As you can see in the conversation above, nothing new is learned and no shift in perception is achieved. The only thing such a dialogue can achieve is creating the illusion that you know yourself very well and are keenly on top of your own issue, while at the same time being as ignorant as ever and doing precisely zero to change the conditions of your life in real terms. The miracle question. No matter what predicament you're currently facing, there is one particular question that's been shown to be pretty helpful in creating insight. Does the miracle question make miracles? In therapy, it does. For the therapist, the intervention can help find clients' hidden strengths as well as new solutions to their problems. The miracle question opens doors to new possibilities because it essentially asks you to imagine what things would be like if things were different, better, and problems were solved. This is a powerful question to ask because it focuses your mind not on the problem or on what isn't working, but on solutions, potentials, and options. In solution-focused therapy, the client imagines and talks about a world where all the current problems don't exist and every issue is already dealt with. What does that look like? Just imagining it can help unlock ideas that were previously hidden by a focus on the lack or difficulty in the present. The question can be asked in different ways. Assume your problem has been solved. What has changed? Assume your problem is gone. What does this mean to you? Suppose tonight, while you're sleeping, a miracle happens. Because you were asleep, you didn't know it happened, but everything you ever wanted is now there, and all your problems are gone. You now have your perfect life. When you wake up in the morning, how will you be able to tell that the miracle has happened? This last bit is important. How will you be able to tell that the miracle has occurred? What will you see, hear, touch? What kind of person will you be? What are your thoughts, feelings, actions? What would your world have to look like for you to wake up and encounter it in the morning and exclaim, "It's a miracle"? What would other people see and notice for them to think the same thing? When you ask this question, really give yourself the time to answer it fully. Close your eyes and immerse yourself in a possible answer. But don't jump in with yes, but, or reasons for why the miracle can't happen. Just assume it did, no matter how unlikely or crazy that seems to you right now. Become curious about what you notice after this miracle has completely come and gone. Be creative. If you can, spend up to 10 minutes doing this exercise and dwell on each detail. Then what? Remember that we're not just asking questions for nothing. Our insight only counts if we channel it into useful, value-driven, goal-oriented behavior that makes our lives better. Let's look at how that could happen. Let's say Clara asks herself the miracle question and fleshes out a full answer. Clara is an anxious overthinker who can't help catastrophizing and assuming the worst outcome on zero evidence. Her core belief, if you remember, is something like, "The world can't be trusted and I am not safe." She knows that she's anxious. She imagines that one day she wakes up and a miracle has occurred. How would she know? She imagines herself relaxed, joyful, balanced. She really feels into this sensation of calm control, of feeling trust in herself and the world at large. It's quite a luxurious feeling. She knows a miracle has happened because when she encounters a stressful trigger, she doesn't care. It means nothing to her. In fact, she finds herself exploring all kinds of interesting new possibilities in this miracle world. If she truly, miraculously felt safe in life, would she stay at her job? Stay with her boring but stable husband? She follows the visualization wherever it takes her. She would travel. She'd try new things and take more risks. She'd dress more creatively, take up painting, and be less afraid of speaking her mind in conversations. If she truly felt safe in herself and in the world, she realizes, she'd suddenly feel creative, inspired, curious. How different life would look. Once she opens her eyes, it's time to put this understanding into practice. Clara now goes about her normal life again, but the next time she faces a stressful trigger or notices herself going into catastrophizing mode, she stops and asks, "How would I behave if the miracle had happened?" Then she does that. That's important. She needs to act, not just imagine. She's scrolling on her phone, a kryptonite for anxious overthinkers, and stumbles upon a panic-inducing news report about nuclear war. She can't help the automatic thought that pops into her mind. The whole thing is hopeless. Sooner or later, humans are going to blow themselves to smithereens, and there's nothing you can do about it. She looks at this thought and imagines how she would appraise it if the miracle had happened. Well, she'd feel a moment of stress, but then realize that there really isn't anything she can do, and that stressing about it won't change a thing, so why voluntarily stress? If she'd trust in herself, and perhaps even in a higher power, she would put away her phone and decide to be grateful for her life, to live right now, and to refuse to be guided by fear. If she wanted to, she could take conscious action that would work to reinforce her values, like donating to a refugee support program. Or maybe she'd go into the other room, hug her husband, and then carry on with creating the life she actually wants, like putting in a few hours of practice painting. Every morning, Clara reminds herself of the miracle question and how it felt to be outside of her current problem of anxiety. Remember, it's not only a verbal or intellectual exercise. She's trying not only to think something different, but to really feel it. Every evening, she looks at how her thoughts, feelings, and behaviors have changed. It will sound cheesy, but one day, Clara will wake up and she will be living that miracle. The exercise will seem boring to her because she's no longer imagining anything. It's real. Nick Trenton's journey to becoming a behavioral psychology expert is an inspiring tale of growth. His unique approach to self-help has helped countless readers find peace, purpose, and progress. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life. Get your copy of How to Therapize and Heal Yourself today and start your journey towards emotional healing and personal development.